Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Maddie Paul. Inside the Newsroom, we bring you the trending stories of the KELOLAND area, and we bring in our newsroom staff members to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how we put our stories together for when you see it on our newscasts and on KELOLAND.com. We're going to start with the hot and humid topic of Friday and going into the weekend, and of course, that's weather. So joining us now is our meteorologist, Jalen Borison, and Scott Munt at the weather desk to talk about everything that we're going to be expecting to see this weekend, because we're starting hot, guys, but it'll get better, won't it?
Well, is this too hot for you? You have a certain threshold. I'm not quite sure what that threshold is yet.
This entire week, guys, I thought it was way too cold. Way too cold.
Okay, so you'll like this weekend then.
Okay, I will like this weekend.
I'm trying to
Okay.
think. It was cool in the evening. We had some high humidity.
We did, yes. Very humid yesterday, especially with the rain and everything. Yeah.
And I enjoyed yesterday. Like, I was actually outside. I felt like I could wear my shorts and like walk around a little bit. But like earlier this week, no.
Do you like the rainy weather better?
No, because I
No?
like being
Okay.
outside more. And so, I don't know.
But
It was just
again,
not great.
what's that threshold where it gets too hot, too humid for you to be outside?
This,
Because I think we talked about that before, and I'm trying to
I
figure
feel like
that
I'm being
out.
interrogated. This is my show, guys. You guys can't
sorry.
take over.
Sorry, shoot. Our bad.
I do actually like the humid weather a lot. I don't like the mosquitoes that come out because of it. But Jalen, last time that you were on, we talked about Wildwater West, and you actually went, didn't you?
Yeah, I went last Sunday when it was super hot and humid. I was surprised there wasn't many people there actually, but it was a great time. Did everything that there was to do. It was my first time, and not a bad experience at all.
Will you go
Lots of
back?
good things to say.
You're
Oh,
going
yeah.
back.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I'm going back.
So it was your first time, so I want to
Yes.
make sure you go back.
And definitely not the last time. Yes.
I like the wave pool and the lazy
Oh my
river.
gosh.
Those are my two
Yeah,
favorites.
I was thriving. I was having the best time.
Well, I don't know if this weekend will be great for that pool activity, especially as we're talking about later in the evenings, right?
Well, that's just it. It's a timing issue. As I like to say, it's always timing when it comes down to weather, right? And I think much of the day part will be dry, much like
Yeah,
today.
it'll just be like another hot and humid day basically until we get kind of into the evening hours as all that energy during the day builds up with the heat and the moisture with those southerly winds.
And speaking of energy, this is what we're looking at, storm energy associated with any thunderstorms that can develop. It's not necessarily the bullseye where we have the highest energy shown on the computer graphic here. It's more or less on the edges of that we typically start to see these thunderstorms develop. And if they do develop, they can quickly become strong to severe.
Yeah, something we'll be wanting to keep an eye on this weekend because a lot of energy that you see we can work with these storms.
And it's not only today, it's what's expected to happen for tomorrow.
Yep.
We'll probably reload the atmosphere, move it a little farther to the east. And something that we sometimes talk about is we can develop a cap in the atmosphere, meaning it's too warm to storm.
Yep.
And I think that may end up being the case for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
During the day, and then we'll see what happens during the evening where individual thunderstorms can develop.
Yeah, and I mean, tomorrow kind of looks to be more of a line of storms potentially that develop. Is that correct?
It is,
Yeah.
with strong wind being the main
Yes,
threat, too. I really
yes.
think the wind aspect with some of these stronger storms.
Yes.
But for today, we have the slight risk of severe weather. Covers a lot of real estate in South Dakota.
Yep, a lot of KELOLAND is under that slight risk today.
And along with that, we could individually break it down. This is a look at our wind risk for today. Now, it has it in a percentage. It goes from 5% to 15% in yellow. And that means you take a point anywhere on that map, and if you take that point, say an example being Pierre, well, within a 25-mile radius of that, there's a 15% chance that if a storm develops, it will have strong wind with it.
Yeah.
And something else that we're watching, well, significant wind, right? This is what the Storm Prediction Center will come out with what's called a hatched area. That means that it's a 10% chance, at least a 10% chance of seeing wind gusts around 75 miles per hour or more within a 25-mile radius of any point that you see highlighted in blue. So today's risk, we can see just about everything. All risks are on the table. That's a look at the hail risk. Same thing, the risk of at least 2 inches in diameter of hail at 10% or greater anywhere in that light purple. And, of course, today there's enough spin in the atmosphere that will bring in that tornado risk, too.
Because we have that low pressure system moving in, and that's going to create the chance for some spin in the atmosphere with that. And that means there's a greater tornado risk basically there in northern and central KELOLAND that we'll have to keep an eye on with those initial storms.
And it doesn't necessarily hang around for tomorrow, which is a good thing. You know,
Yes.
I'm not always rooting.
Not a favorable environment for tornadoes tomorrow.
Right.
So we'll take that as a win.
We'll take that as a win.
What a
but
win.
We're still looking at that possibility for strong to severe weather as tomorrow we have that slight risk. It's a little farther to the east.
Yeah.
And I think these storms will develop a little farther to the east too.
I agree, kind of looking along the border of South Dakota and Minnesota from recent models today, but we'll see how that develops as we go into tomorrow too.
Yeah, the first spark may be near Watertown.
Yes.
We can get some development to the southwest of that area.
Yep.
And then going through these maps too, just highlighting the risk here with wind. It's a little higher for central and the eastern South Dakota. And I really think, again, much of the day will be dry.
Yeah,
Will be
it's-
and very
yeah.
humid too. I
Yes.
don't mean to point. Well,
Yes.
you can't see me pointing, which is good.
Oh, Scott,
But-
come on now.
But very humid. We'll have our dew point temperatures return to the 70s. Maddie probably stay inside.
Yeah,
It
it's
gets
not
too
Maddie's
hot. I think
kinda
that's
day.
yeah. I
No.
think that's the threshold. That
This is
we're
why I'm off camera because I'm just shaking my head
talking
right
about
now.
earlier. And again, with the wind, the hail risk too, that shows up a little more across northeastern
Yep.
South Dakota. And there's that tornado risk. It's out of our area, mainly
Yep,
in the
into
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
And this is just for Saturday?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Looking at that.
Saturday evening and into the night.
I keep seeing online, I don't know how much you guys have looked into it, but Minnesota has been getting a lot of tornadoes recently. And it just makes me think like, oh gosh, are we next? Sioux Falls area, this eastern side of the state next. But right now, even though all forms of severe weather you guys are saying are possible, it's still just risks at this moment, right?
Right. We
Right.
obviously don't have any watches out at the moment, but
No.
don't be too surprised if you have your storm tracker app and it will alert you that a thunderstorm watch and maybe a tornado watch.
Yep, today I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised.
So keep that storm tracker app handy throughout the day.
All right. I have a wedding to go to this weekend. And so
Okay.
I know we're talking about Maddie's not going to be in the humid weather, but I might be. I might be outside. I thought it was going to rain a bunch this weekend too. And so I was telling the person who's getting married, like, oh, you better watch out. Make sure you have that reception inside. But if it's going to be later in the evening, I think we'll be okay.
And
Yeah.
I think the timing of it will work out that much of the day part for a lot of us will end up being dry.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it should ruin anyone's weekend plans, especially
change
during day. No.
Don't change
No.
the wedding date.
Well, yeah, that's not up to me.
That's
Scott's
not our problem right now. But
Scott said it himself. All right. Is there anything else that you think our viewers should know about severe weather outlook for this weekend?
Well, along with the severe weather, just keep in mind the high humidity and the heat that we'll have for tomorrow, too. That heat index
Heat
can
index,
approach 100 in
Yeah.
southeastern South Dakota.
Wow. And that is what it is. But I
it's
like
going
it. I
to
like
feel
that
a
100.
little uncomfortable, that's for sure, out there.
I might like it.
Yeah.
That's what we're learning now.
The
That'll work
wedding's
for
on
Maddie.
Saturday, right?
Yes, it's on Saturday. So I'll really like it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's
I love-
outside.
Am I-
A lot of sweaty people.
I'm starting
Yeah.
to sweat now. I'm starting to sweat now. Thank you both for joining me at the digital desk to talk about this update. And stick around, viewers, because up next, we're talking about historic flooding anniversaries in the KELOLAND area and its impacts that still linger today. Stay with us. We'll be right back on Inside the Newsroom. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. It has been 1 year since historic flooding has devastated many parts of the KELOLAND area. And this weekend on Inside KELOLAND, we're going to go back in time and look at that flooding that we saw, but also look at the impacts that it's still making today. In fact, our producer for Inside KELOLAND is joining us now at the digital desk to tell you what you can expect to see this weekend. Kyle Ireland. Now, Kyle, what kind of stories are we going to be looking at this weekend on Inside KELOLAND?
So kind of the main focus is going to be on the communities that we visited. So we are going to start with McCook Lake, which was absolutely just devastated by the flooding. I mean, hundreds of homes damaged. The levels went absurdly high. Then we'll go down to Rock Valley, which is kind of another community that was hardcore hit. We did a lot of stories with KELOLAND's Jordan DeSmit. So we'll have him come on to talk about his experience down there. And he's also from Northwest Iowa, so he's kind of got that perspective on it. And then we'll also look at the continued efforts in Canton. Now, Canton wasn't as hard hit, but it did still have quite a bit of damage, and there was a massive debris pile that ended up kind of coming together.
Why was it important for you to make Inside Kelloland about the historic flooding for this weekend?
So when we come up on like the 1-year anniversary of things, like the 5-year anniversaries, those are kind of big deals because it's not just when the week happens, that's when the story is. It's kind of when throughout the course of the recovery, how are they doing? How is it still impacting people? I mean, a lot of those homes and communities and like the businesses there, they were heavily impacted. I mean, they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property, of inventory, of all of, the kind of their precious moments in their lives. And so how are they coming back from that? What is it taken to get them there? And so I feel like covering it on, kind of the 1-year anniversary, it brings it back into everyone's minds.
And how is Inside Kelloland different than any other newscasts that we see on broadcast?
So Inside Kelloland is very different because we can go more in depth on a lot of things. So we've got more time to play with. So I can dedicate a whole segment, a whole 5, 6, 8 minutes to something. Whereas in a newscast, it might only get 2 minutes. It might get 30 seconds. So especially with something like this flooding where there was just a ton of stuff happening, I mean, it gives us that ability to really go deep into it. And even with other Inside Kellolands, even if it's not all based on one topic, we'll still cover one thing or multiple things way more detailed than we ever could in a newscast.
And for this special edition, I'm calling it a special edition. When we're looking
I think
at
that's
historic
fair.
flooding like this, it's kind of special. And we're looking at that impact that it really has now. Is that kind of the focus of the stories that you've chosen? Is those stories that are looking at what has happened now? Or are we going and looking at stories that we even did back in the past and re-airing them? What does that
Both.
look like? Oh, wow,
Both. So the way that I kind of structured it is we're going to run a package on what happened that week. So either the first or second package really looking at the direct impact right after the floods happened. And then immediately following it will be the update that we did this week.
Wow. And what do you hope viewers take away from this structure that you've outlined for them on Inside Kelloland?
I hope they take away the raw impact that it had. I mean, this was historic levels of flooding. As we mentioned in it, it was 10 to 20 inches of rain for several of those communities. And that kind of water is just, it's hard to even fathom how deep that is just from like a street level. But then you also think about what that did to homes and families and all of that. And so I really just want people to take away that impact and what it did to those people in those communities.
Were you working here at Kelloland during that flooding?
Yes, I was producing our 6 o'clock during that time, in which that's kind of my normal job too. Inside Kelloland's the side gig, and then 6 p.m. is the normal. But yeah, basically that whole week, all of my shows were just the flood
flooding.
videos. I looked back at the rundowns this week, to find the stories, because a lot of them did. I mean, basically every show, it was just flooding.
Yeah.
But the 6 o'clock, especially, the first half of the show was literally just covering the floods, and there was a lot to go through. That was
Even you just like talking about it right now, like it's making me remember everything. It's coming back to me. My body's like physically reacting.
Those were some stressful days.
Yeah.
Because it was even like on a normal day, I kind of know what I'm going to have. I know what my stories are. They might change a little bit, but I know the rough idea. Mm-hmm. With those flooding days, it was literally, I could set up a whole show and then 20 minutes later have to wipe the rundown and just start over because we were getting new information constantly.
And how did you deal with that kind of stress? I mean, it's almost chaotic, right? In a way. I mean, we polish it and keep it together, but how do you handle it?
It is chaotic, but I'm kind of one of those people where I don't really feel stressed too much until it's too late. So for me, that chaos, I kind of thrive in it. I love when all of that stuff is going on around me and I can kind of be the calm in the storm, pun intended, to be where all of it can kind of converge and then we make it so that way it's palatable for other people so that way they can know what's going on. That kind of thing just really makes me excited and it makes me have a lot of fun.
And for something like this, you have your own tie to producing the floodings from a year ago and to now with Inside Kellerland, looking back on those stories. How can people watch Inside Kellerland?
So Inside Kellerland goes live on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. and then again on Sunday evenings at 10:30, immediately following the 10 o'clock news. It'll also go live on, well, it won't go live, but it will be up on kellerland.com. It'll have a specific story. It'll be Inside Kellerland, historic June flooding 2024 or something like that. I haven't decided the headline yet, but and then I believe it will also be on Kellerland Plus. And then something also with this one, because it's kind of a special Inside Kellerland, it will also air on the 4th of July during the 4 o'clock half an hour, during the 4 o'clock block.
Wonderful. Kyle, thank you so much for joining me here at the Digital Desk. And everyone, make sure you watch Inside Kellerland this weekend. Still to come on Inside the Newsroom, we're also going to be talking about something 4th of July rated. And it's all about that big boom that you see in the sky. Stay with us. We're bringing in another reporter to talk about their story of fireworks sales after the break. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Now, the 4th of July would not be the same if you didn't have any fireworks. And starting today, South Dakotans can start stocking up.
We have had a tremendous amount of innovation, and that can be anywhere from the artillery shells to the big finale case that go up in the sky, but even to rockets.
Fireworks are on sale. Joining me now is our reporter, Kyla, who looked at Pyro City and saw a lot of their inventory stocking up for 4th of July. Kyla, what did you see?
That was my first time actually going into a fireworks store.
Oh, yeah.
And there was so many different types that I had no clue. It was a little overwhelming, so I don't understand how people can just pick one.
Yeah.
I would want to get all of them.
That's how I was as a kid. I always wanted to play with all of them. They scared me a little bit, but if you get one, you just have to get a little bit more. Kyla, watching your story, your interviewee was super eccentric and he seemed very comfortable and excited to talk about fireworks. Can you explain a little bit about how that interview process went and who you spoke to?
Yeah, so I spoke with the owner of Pyro City. His name is Kevin, and I have never met someone more passionate to talk about fireworks than this man. He has been in the firework industry for a long time. I can't think of the exact year, but he just had so much excitement to talk about all the different fireworks and how excited he is that South Dakotans can start finally stocking up for the 4th of July. And it was a very easy interview, and I would love to talk to him again.
Yeah, because he seemed super comfortable. Again, like that eccentric energy that just kept coming out. While you've been out on the field, you've been an intern with Kellerland for a couple of weeks now, almost wrapping up, right?
Yeah, I think this is the ending of either the 4th or 5th week.
Oh.
So we got 3-ish weeks left, maybe.
That's crazy. And, as you're going out into the field every day now for daily reporting, which is super fantastic. You've done a wonderful job and you keep growing, but you meet new people every day. How have you found your comfortability rising with the people that you're talking to, even though they're strangers and even though you're meeting someone new every day? What's kind of your takeaways from these types of interviews?
Yeah, I love meeting new people. So getting to meet people from all different workforces is really neat to me. I've met people that are in the firework industry. I've talked to policemen. I've talked to restaurant owners and just customers or just pedestrians on the street. And it's definitely grew my confidence in just calling people and being like, hey, I want to interview you. When can we? Instead of being nervous, because in the past, I definitely would have been a little bit more on the timid side. But I've definitely grew since being here.
Would you say you're more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Ooh, it's definitely a mix.
Okay.
I used to be a huge extrovert when I was younger, and then I started growing into an introvert, and now I think I'm more in the middle.
Oh, okay. I describe myself as like an introverted extrovert because I'm an introvert, but because of working in the industry, I've been way more outgoing and it doesn't like drain my
Yes.
energy or anything. So, how have you found ways since you've been working here at Keloland where you've been gaining that energy, that extrovertness, or that comfortability to just approach strangers? How has that journey been like for you?
At first, it was definitely nerve-wracking seeing how when I shadowed, how you would just go up to a random person and ask them questions or ask if you can ask them. And I've definitely grew to know that in this industry, you have to be able to go outside of your comfort zone. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the story you want. And it's definitely pushed me a lot. And I feel bad sometimes when I'm calling them constantly because I want to interview them. But I know in the end that it works out.
It works out. And what has been a favorite story that you've created recently?
Ooh, my favorite so far would have to be the Humane Society. I loved seeing the dogs and the cats and seeing, or just bringing awareness to people knowing that they need to adopt and all the help they could do. And it was just a really cute story.
I love your Humane Society stories too. I think you've done 2 at least now, right?
Yes, and I'm glad they keep putting me on.
That's your beat now, your little
Yes.
niche. What story are you working on today?
Today I'm going to the Jacobson Plaza. They are doing a media day, so I believe it's a tour. They can do some questions. I'll ask a bunch of questions because I don't really know, not being from Sioux Falls. I'm still learning. So I'm excited to meet even more new people today.
Well, good luck and have fun. And for everyone watching, you can watch Kyla's story tonight on our evening newscast. That's just on Keloland. And you can also read her stories on Keloland.com. And stick around for Inside the Newsroom. We're going to wrap things up when we come back after the break. Well, everyone, that's all the time that we have for Inside the Newsroom today. Thank you for watching. This is the second week that we've ran Inside the Newsroom episodes for you. So thank you for watching and continue to watch on Keloland Plus. We have Inside the Newsroom Monday through Fridays at 1 o'clock. So we'll make sure to see you next week. Until then, have a great weekend, everyone, and stay weather aware. See ya.